Live from historic Dunn Field, it's once again time for Elmira Pioneers baseball, as on a cool and unconventionally chilly Friday evening at the end of June here in Elmira, New York, your Pioneers get set to host the Geneva Red Wings for the fourth time this season, fifth matchup of the season between both squads. Good evening, everybody. For the Elmira Pioneers Baseball Network, I'm Farrell Hudson. We'll have your pregame coverage and your live coverage tonight as the Pioneers look to make it 5 wins in a row over the Red Wings to start the season. We obviously understand the struggles that the Geneva Red Wings have endured, but that's still no excuse for the Pioneers to take it easy tonight. They're going to send Brendan Hayes to the mound, and Hayes was masterful last Thursday night, to say the least, against Geneva. Across 7 innings of work, he struck out 8 batters without allowing a walk, 6 hits only to his name. That's been a real strength of the Pioneers so far, has been slowing down a Geneva offense where we know it's been a little bit of a struggle for them, to say the least, this season. They come in not doing too hot offensively, indicative of their starting lineup tonight. Multiple OPS and batting averages well south of where they should be at this point in the season. You're already 19 ball games in, so definitely a bit of an issue for Thomas Eaton's squad as they roll in, but Eaton's squad also has won 3 ball games prior to last night's game, which was a defeat for the Red Wings, so they roll in on a little bit of a cooler stretch. Their most recent ball game coming on June 18th, or rather June 25th, that is, an 11-1 win over the Auburn Doubledays last night after a loss at the hands of the Niagara Falls Americans. What an ironic time, or what a funny sport baseball is. It's so ironic the way sometimes things happen. The Auburn Doubledays mercied the Elmira Pioneers 11-1 at Falcon Park on Wednesday night. At Sal Maloney Field at McDonough Park yesterday, a field in which the Pioneers aren't too necessarily well acquainted with. Heck, I don't even know if the Geneva Red Wings are. The Red Wings have played so far this season 15 of their opening 20 ball games on the road. That's 3/4 of their ball games away from Sal Maloney Field at McDonough Park, but they took on the Auburn Doubledays there last night, and they mercied them 11-1. Just funny the way that works, especially considering Elmira's success against Geneva. Right now, the Pioneers enter tonight's ball game in 4th place in the PGCBL Western Division. Another strong thing going for them. The 3rd least amount of games in the PGCBL West Division are played by the Elmira Pioneers. Now, the Pios can't advance into 1st place with a victory tonight. That would put them at minimum a loss or a win in the column just behind the Niagara Falls Americans, who roll in 13-6. They'll take on the Jamestown Tarp Skunks later tonight. Auburn sits in 2nd place in the Western Division at 12-6-1. Pioneers, as we alluded to, 11-7. They'll take on Batavia tomorrow night, so this is the first of a busy stretch for the Pioneers. We have mentioned that in previous broadcasts. 4 more games in the next 72 hours. An unexpected off night that came last night as the Pioneers loaded up, got on the team bus around 2:30 p.m., got up to Newark, New York to get set to take on the Newark Pilots, and due to some unforeseen circumstances with the field over at Colburn Park, the Pioneers and Pilots didn't even throw a pitch, didn't even play an inning. Pioneers had a pretty good 3-on-3 flag or 2-man touch football game, if you will, go on. So a little bit of fun action for the Pioneers last night, but obviously not too fun in the fact that they didn't get to play a ball game. But that rests up a lot of pitchers for this very arduous stretch, especially considering you're going up against 2 teams in the standings who are ahead of you, being the 1st place Niagara Falls Americans, in which you are 1-0 against. The Batavia Muck Dogs you are 1-2 against on the season. The entire splits for your Elmira Pioneers against the entire PGCBL Western Division. We mentioned Niagara Falls 1-0, Batavia 1-2, the Newark Pilots 3-0, the Geneva Red Wings 4-0, the Jamestown Tarp Skunks 1-2, and surprisingly, the Auburn Doubledays 1-3. A nice statistic mentioned to us by one of our team statisticians and assistant coach in Nasty Nate Krukow, as he said earlier, dating back to the last 4 seasons, all 4 seasons that Mr. Elmira Cooper Smith has played in a Pioneers uniform, the Pios are 3-10 on the road at Falcon Park, so that's kind of been their arch nemesis, their overhanging black cloud, if you will, this season, metaphorically to begin, as the Pioneers struggles against the Doubledays. The good news is, in that last ball game, which the Pios played on Wednesday night, due to last night's rainout, the Doubledays were able to get a lot of their runs off of Nolan Terwilliger. Now, it's no disrespect to the start that Nolan has had to his season. Entered Wednesday night's ball game, 4 appearances, a 1.29 ERA. He thrives in his relief outings and gave the Pioneers 2 strong innings on Wednesday night before he let up 6 runs in an unfortunate bottom half of the 3rd inning for the Auburn Doubledays. 3 hits, though, so those underlying issues can be a bit of an issue, especially considering when you had an error as well in that inning. Pios lost that ball game 11-1 in 7 innings. So the last 2 ball games the Pioneers have played have been 7-inning games. The back end of the doubleheader at Jamestown on Sunday, which was a 4-1 loss to the Tarp Skunks. Pios going 1-1 at Russell Dietrich Park, and then the Mercy Rule against Auburn on Wednesday night. The good news, if you want to talk run differential, the Pioneers entering tonight's ball game 20-10 at Dunn Field. That's a +10 run differential across 4 games against the Geneva Red Wings, and they've had quite the amount of magic moments. Brendan Hayes with arguably the best start a Pioneer has had this season on this field against the Red Wings 8 days ago. How about Brandon Dubek 10 days ago? Pioneers were down 5-1, a 5-run bottom of the 7th. He caps it off and walks it off for the Pioneers. I mentioned Brandon Dubek's name, so why don't we get into him a little bit. In the starting lineup for the Pioneers tonight, out of the 10 men hitting in the order, Brandon Dubek is second on the team in on-base percentage with .517. Granted, it's a small sample size. He's only appeared in 8 ball games, got the start in 7, and about 3 to 4 of them have come behind the plate. It's a bit of a quadruple split, if you will. Don't even know if that's a thing, but my point being, between Brandon Dubek, Anthony Manganiello, Carl Wagner, and TJ Grimesti, they've all been splitting time behind the plate, and the unique splits with all that are the Pioneers are 11-7, so Brandon Dubek certainly playing his role offensively. A .222 batting average, a little bit down, but that's what he expect from a power-hitting catcher in that role. So Dubek really thriving so far as a Pioneer. So we'll get to the starting lineups in a little bit. We'll continue on right now with our drive across the league. Let's go to the PGCBL Eastern Division. The Amsterdam Mohawks, it's no surprise. They're back in the win column. They've won only 5 in their last 10 ball games, so a bit of a slump for them. But when all's said and done, 14-6 through their opening 20 ball games. Mohawk Valley rolling in at 12-7 on a 2-game win streak. They're in second place in the Eastern Division. Boonville at 10-7. They've won 1 in a row and 6 in their last 10. They sit 2.5 back of first place Amsterdam, and then you look at the Saugerty Stallions. They're reeling a bit, lost 2 in a row, still 6 wins in their last 10, 3 games back on Amsterdam. So Amsterdam, Mohawk Valley, Boonville, and Saugerty is all the top 4 in the Eastern Division. Utica on the outside looking in. They sit a game and a half out of 4th place, 5 games back of first place Amsterdam. 7-9 overall, 1 win, and 6 in their last 10, so they're starting to wake up a little bit. Glens Falls, not so much. 7-11 in their opening 18 ball games, including only 4 wins in their last 10, and the team really reeling to find victories are the Oneonta Outlaws, 3-15 in their opening 18 ball games to begin. That's the worst percentage of any team right now in the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League rolling in. So it's been a rough going for Oneonta. They get to take on Amsterdam tonight. We'll take our look at our drive across the league. The ball games that take place tonight, the Niagara Falls Americans and the Jamestown Tarp Skunks from Russell Dietrich Park in the Western Division. That game kicks off at 6:30 p.m. Jamestown, as we alluded to, in 6th place with a 10-9 record. They have only had 5 wins in their last 10, only ahead of Geneva and Niagara, who sit well back into 7th and 8th place. So it's become down to a 6-horse race, if you will, for the PGCBL West. You have the Newark Pilots, who sit comfortably back behind the Pioneers now, but as we alluded to, Pioneers cannot take that for granted. Elmira 11-7 right now in 4th place. The Newark Pilots at 8-7-1. The Batavia Muck Dogs take on the Auburn Doubledays tonight from Falcon Park. That's the second West Division matchup, and then the Newark Pilots travel over across the border to George Taylor Field in St. Catharines, Ontario, to take on the Niagara Ironbacks. As we mentioned, in the East Division, Amsterdam takes on Oneonta, and Boonville takes on the struggling Glens Falls Dragons from East Field in Glens Falls, New York. So it's been a time for the Pioneers. When you look overall at not playing Newark, who they're obviously struggling. They've lost 6 of their last 7 ball games. 4 wins only in their last 10 after what was a really strong 7-1-1 start for them. That's not looking too good. And then Geneva obviously coming in with a 4-15 record. The last place Niagara Ironbacks. The Pioneers will only see twice on the season in one day. They'll come here for a doubleheader on Sunday, July 13th. So Pioneers just have to keep the momentum rolling, take care of their business tonight. But obviously the 2 tall tasks stand ahead. And earlier today I got to speak about the latest of business with the assistant coach of your Elmira Pioneers. Here's Eugene Barber.
I'm pleased to be joined on Pioneers Pregame Live by Pioneers assistant coach Eugene Barber, head of the Pioneers home matchup this evening versus the Geneva Red Wings. Coach, getting things started right away. You guys 4-0 against Geneva this season. What's attributed to the team's overall success versus a very veteran lineup?
I mean, one of the biggest things is just our guys being unapologetically themselves, just authentically bringing their own play styles to the field and just coming out and showing growth within their play styles, and ultimately, it's leading to a lot of success on the field, and I love to see it from the boys.
In yesterday's conversation with Coach Drum, he alluded to you guys collectively swinging the bats well despite the double-digit defeat in Auburn on Wednesday. 2 runs, though, across your last 14 innings of game action. What needs to change and or remain the same in terms of plate approach this evening?
I mean, we just got to continue to show that same discipline at the plate. We're catching a lot of barrels. We're getting into good hitter counts. It's just, things aren't falling our way right now. And kind of happened to us last night. We were supposed to play Newark, and unfortunately we weren't able to get out there and play. And, but we're back at it tonight, and, we're going to go out there and get a win.
Yeah, take me through a little bit of that outing last night. You drive up 2 hours to Newark, you come back, the bus ride. Just how vital was that for a team's growth and camaraderie, just getting to spend a lot of quality time around one another?
Well, I mean, just the growth from a personable aspect of just the guys getting to know each other. We got guys from all different parts of over the country and, different schools, just, spending that time, that quality time with each other. A few guys went down and got some food at a local restaurant in Newark while we were sitting there waiting. And just kind of those moments, that you make throughout these 2 months, just really brings a unit together. And it's good to see the guys just enjoying each other's company, because you don't always get that. And ultimately that leads to, players being happy for other success. And, that's really what a team thrives on.
You mentioned guys coming together, a new addition to the lineup in Brett Baker this week. What kind of spark can Brett provide when he's in the lineup for you guys going forward?
I mean, Brett coming from UMass Dartmouth, he's a dog, a good athletic kid, good bat-to-ball skills, and is definitely going to really help solidify our outfield. Just the more athletes, the more dogs, the more, camaraderie, especially because, played with Jacob as well. It just all adds up to the collective of, us being successful out on the field. And the next thing we have to do as a team is we just got to focus on the task at hand. There's a lot of, history we've accomplished in the past 2 seasons here, going back to back. And we just got to focus on the goal, getting back to the mountaintop, and finally toppling Amsterdam or whoever comes out of the East.
3 Pioneers out of Barry University now, 2 from UMass Dartmouth. How important is that for a summer team to have a lot of guys in which have a lot of familiarity from their collegiate baseball seasons with one another?
On that one, I would say the biggest thing is just having a preset culture. It's if you get too much from all over the place, sometimes it doesn't mesh as well. But, this year, this locker room, the dugout, the team itself, it's just been truly a melting pot of, different personalities. And again, we just get kind of a preset, with guys coming from a school, that they're familiar with. They're familiar with those guys, and, just really helps to kind of spread throughout the rest of the clubhouse, the energy. The other guys thrive off of it.
You mentioned the 2 words, preset and culture. I'll combine them both. What is the preset culture of the Elmira Pioneers in 2025?
So I would say the biggest thing is just letting guys be the best version of themselves. Each guy has a different personality, different play style. We want to enhance that. We want to take that and get it up to the next level, so that way they can go back and be just as, if not more productive at their college program.
You mentioned that very loose kind of playing right now. The guys feeling good, but how much of a must-win game does it feel tonight? You're going up against a Geneva team that's won 3 in a row. You guys have lost 2 in a row with 2 good opponents on the horizon in Batavia and Niagara Falls.
I'll say this, it's, no disrespect to the team across the field, but you have to beat the teams that you're supposed to and just make sure that they stay in their place. As bad as that may sound, you need to hop on them early, stay on them, and ultimately go for that, that knockout punch early in the game.
Brandon Hayes gets his 2nd consecutive start at home against the Geneva Red Wings. What was working so well for Brendan last time out, and how can he replicate it this evening?
I just felt like pregame, I felt like he had a purpose to go out there and, just focus on what he needed to focus on, getting ahead early, attacking hitters, having a good sequence. I think that's something that's very undersold, is having a good sequence out there, whether if you're a pitcher or as a hitter, being able to combat that sequence and get it into account where you can be successful.
I want to talk a little bit about the bullpen and specifically Southpaw Michael Cobb, who was really good at Auburn on Wednesday. What did you like that you saw from Mike in comparison to maybe some of his his earlier outings earlier on this season?
There's just kind of a different aura around the kid that night. The intensity coming out of the pen, and even after the first half inning, he just had a real fire lit under him, and that's something that could possibly carry him through the second half of the season, really help out our bullpen.
I want to go back a little bit to last night's game. You saw, or last night's non-game, but the trip up to Newark. Bit of a crazy night. You guys are playing some football out there, a little two-man touch action. Just a quick question. Who would you draft to your fantasy football team if you had to take an Elmira Pioneer first overall?
Can I take a coach?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm taking Brian Joe, man. He's got an absolute cannon. All right, I'm taking him, or we put him out there in a little option action. I'm taking Brian Joe because he could truck somebody. He's got good speed, good footwork, and again, just an absolute cannon. Second, if I had to take a player, I'm taking Grabs because he just grabs everything, and he also throws the ball really well.
I was gonna say we saw Grabs moving around in the QB position last night. He had some pretty good pocket awareness, right?
I know, right? We might have to start ourselves up a little 7-on-7, here in the fall. Try to keep some guys back here for the fall.
Well, Coach, look forward to it, and thanks. Best of luck tonight.
Appreciate it.
So there it is, Eugene Barber on the clubhouse report this evening, and I gotta love the end there, right? You gotta love a little two-man touch, 7-on-7 action as you're waiting. Keep the boys loose out there after a long bus ride. The vibes were riding high with the Pioneers, and that's something that's been very noticeable from the get-go this season. After a tough loss, the Pioneers typically finding ways to rebound. They started off 0-3. Since then, 11-4 in their last 15 ball games. They have been cruising along nicely. Once again, you're listening to Pioneers Pregame live here on the Elmira Pioneers Baseball Network as we get you set for action between the Geneva Red Wings and the Elmira Pioneers. This season, you can connect with the Pios like never before with exclusive content on our social media platforms. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok at the Elmira Pioneers. We want to talk a little bit about offense. Well, we'll talk about offense. Coach Eugene Barber mentioning that some of the guys, especially Aiden Grabowski, who he mentioned at the end, we know Grabowski's good with his footwork at shortstop. We know he's an absolute vacuum in the field. Heck, he could even be a really good wide receiver, too, according to assistant coach Eugene Barber said. He grabs everything, pun intended, and that's exactly what the Pioneers are going to throw out in their lineup tonight. Aiden Grabowski leading off, Cooper Smith in the two-hole, and TJ Gramesti third. A really unique both defensive alignment and offensive lineup tonight for the Pioneers. You have some of the best hitters towards the top tonight, very righty-heavy against the right-hander Elijah Benton from Geneva. We'll get to him in just a little bit, but for the Pioneers, they have a couple guys who can really get it done. Again, an offensive stranglehold against the Geneva Red Wings so far at Dunfield this season, and Gramesti leading the Pios in all offensive categories through 15 games plus. His batting average at .453, his on-base percentage at .574, and his OPS at .1178. Aiden Grabowski for the Pioneers starters tonight is second in batting average with .357, and Cooper Smith just steady Eddie all around. He's third with a .306 average. That leads us to both our starting lineups and defensive alignments for both the Elmira Pioneers and the Geneva Red Wings this evening. We'll start with Thomas Eaton's 7th place Geneva Red Wings rolling in at 4-15. They've lost one following their 3-game win streak after what was a really tough start for them. 1-15 through their opening, or rather 1-14 through their opening 15 ball games, 3 consecutive wins, and then the loss came last night. It'll be Zach Banks, the DH, to lead things off. He's been unbelievable. The junior at Embry-Riddle University batting .407 for Geneva. Jules Conti at second base will bat second. Chase Fogg in left field will bat third. Aiken Santana is doing the cleanup, second on the Red Wings in batting average for starters tonight, .353, a .424 on-base percentage to go along with a very formidable .777 OPS. That's third on the Red Wings in OPS. Jack Turner is the 5-hitter. He'll play right field, batting .195 on the season. J.D. Robinson is the shortstop. He'll bat 6th. Michael Ucci, the extra hitter, the best on-base percentage. This is the Nichols College two-way player who still has 3 years of NCAA eligibility remaining. We've spoken about Ucci, who had a strain this season which kept him out from playing for the Nichols College Bison over in Massachusetts. A .524 on-base percentage and a .924 OPS. Ucci incredibly productive at the plate. If you remember just 10 days ago, Ucci was the guy who came into the ballgame after Malachi Morgan was relieved and ended up giving up the walk-off single to Brandon Dubeck. Jaden Madrid is the third baseman. He'll bat 8th. A bit of a slumping start for the Geneva Red Wing hot corner product, as at Herkimer County Community College this year, a Region 3 Defensive Player of the Year. He batted .342, now just batting .235 through his opening 15 ball games with Geneva. Colin Clark doing the catching tonight. He's batting .300. He'll bat ninth. Dylan Briggs rounding out the batting order. He'll play in center field. We mentioned Brendan Hayes getting the start for your Pioneers. Left to right in the outfield, it's Shane Starr, TJ Gurmesti, and Cooper Smith. Left to right in the infield for Elmira. John Simmons at third. Grabowski at his usual spot at shortstop. Jacob Onis is back at the second base position. Michael Palmer, who's been an elite defensive fielder through the early going of this season. We saw a couple nice swings to the pull side in Auburn on Wednesday night. He'll be in the lineup for the Pios, manning first base. Brandon Dubeck behind the plate now. Dubeck has had a couple struggles behind the plate in terms of catching form and a couple pass balls that have squirted past him, but for the most part still a reliable defender because he's got an 1,000 field percentage right now and a great rapport with the starting pitching staff. Dubeck, one of those really positive sparks for the Pioneers in their lineup. Let's get to the Elmira Pioneers starting batting lineup. It'll be Aiden Grabowski, the shortstop. We mentioned him to lead things off. .357 on the season for the four-year Tiffin University Dragon. Cooper Smith in right field will bat second at .306. TJ Gurmesti, the center fielder and stud product, incoming sophomore at FAU. A .453 batting average, a near 1,200 OPS. Aaron Judge-like numbers for the multifaceted outfielder for Elmira. Anthony Manganiello is the DH. He'll clean up this evening. John Simmons, who's had a bit of a lower dip in batting average, he'll bat fifth and play third. Michael Palmer, we mentioned him, batting sixth and playing first base. Palmer's only round tripper of the season came here at Dunfield just 9 days ago against Auburn. Jacob Onis is at second. He'll bat seventh. Brandon Dubeck doing the catching tonight. We mentioned Brandon and his staunch offensive contribution, especially in the power numbers. A pretty solid .389 slug percentage right now, considering the small sample size of games he's played in. Shane Starr, who's been in and out of the lineup, he'll be in left field. He'll bat ninth, and rounding out the batting order is Vincent Favada. He will bat 10th. Let's take a look at the Geneva defense. Left to right in the outfield, it's Chase Fogg, then Dylan Briggs in center, and Jack Turner's over in right. Left to right in the infield, Jada Madrid at third base, J.D. Robinson at shortstop, Jules Conti is at second base, Aiken Santana is at first, Colin Clark is behind the dish, catching Elijah Benton. Very interesting to see a 5'6" third baseman, kind of eerily similar to what you see with the Houston Astros playing Jose Altuve in left field. That's what you're getting with Jaden Madrid. Comes in at 5'6", about 140 pounds, soaking wet. He'll man the third base position, a relatively formidable field percentage for him at .955 on the season. We mentioned a new player for the Elmira Pioneers that came into town. It's Brett Baker out of UMass Dartmouth, teammates with right-handed reliever Sam Watson. This is a guy who can bring a lot of energy to the lineup. He started and played in 27 games for the Corsairs in 2025 with a .284 batting average, recording 25 hits across 88 at-bats. 7 of his hits were doubles and 2 were home runs. 17 runs scored and 16 runs batted in the process, following up a pretty solid 2024 campaign, in which was his sophomore season. 41 games just a season ago, .288 on the season, a .767 OPS with .374 slugging, 40 hits across 139 at-bats, and appeared and started in 35 games in his freshman season. That was a bit of a slower start for him. Batted .220, 2 doubles, 4 triples for 11 RBIs. Can primarily play the outfield, but the good luxury for your Elmira Pioneers is that they already have so many guys that can man the outfield position. This is exactly the epitome of what you call a good problem. You already have TJ Gurmesti, who's really athletic and really solid in center field. Cooper Smith, you know what he's about, fourth-year returner. And Shane Starr, who hasn't gotten it going with the bat entirely yet, but Shane can play some really, really solid outfield. So overall, really good news for the Pioneers. As we mentioned, Brendan Hayes going out to the mound tonight. A really nice bounce back for Hayes just a week later after what was a tough start for him in the start 14 days ago against Batavia, in which he only lasted 2 2/3 innings, 5 earned runs with 4 walks, 2 hit batsmen, and only 2 strikeouts. Hayes, the sophomore out of Barry University, with that nasty sweeper, sits about 87 to 88 from the right side of the rubber. A real hot commodity when his pitches and stuff are working consistently. Pioneers will hope that they can get that from him in his third outing of the season. That'll do it for Pioneers Pregame Live. Don't go anywhere, though. Be sure to tune in just a few short moments we'll have all your live coverage of the Elmira Pioneers and the Geneva Red Wings for the 5th time this season. For now, I'm Farrell Hudson for the Elmira Pioneers Baseball Network, saying we'll see you in just a few short moments.